If you have everything in your life, why are you depressed? Hi guys, so today's video is going to be really different from my general content, and as I told you guys, I want to make these kind of videos that will help this society to understand few things. So the last video that I did, I'll just add the card up there, but today we are not going to talk about it. Today we are going to talk about mental illness, and this video is basically explaining to you how you can understand depression. And for this, please listen to me. What I want you to do is gather your family members, whoever is around, your father, your mother, no matter if they want to understand it or not, just make them sit together and watch this video. If they are not familiar with the language that I'm speaking, explain it to them in your regional language or whatever language you speak, and make them understand what I am saying line by line. It is very, very important that every person understands what I'm saying today, because depression doesn't come with age. Please keep this in mind. Depression does not come with age. You can be of any age and depression can still hit you. If it's not hitting you, God forbid, if it is hitting anyone else in your family, the other person needs to take care of the family member. So it's very important that we together as nation, we should understand depression, because India is leading in this disability. So let me just give you a little introduction, and then we are going to talk really practically about this thing. We are not going to talk about, oh, this happens, that happens. I am going to talk about what really it is, when did it origin, and what was the era when it was first found. And I think you're going to find some really interesting facts about it. So let's just get started. So first we need to understand a very basic thing about depression. So depression is the leading cause of disability, and India is definitely topping the chart in suicide rates, and then that is linked to depression, which is a mental illness that we're talking about, right? And if you have been suffering from depression, and if you cannot tell your parents or whichever person that you want to share this with, I hope that this video makes it easy for you to make them sit with you and show this video, so that you don't have to do the tough work and they will understand if you're explaining it to them. So depression is the leading cause of disability, but it is very hard to understand because it is a mental illness. So it is very much true that unless you or a family member is going through or has went through a severe depression, you cannot really understand what a severe depression looks like. It's a disease much like cancer or diabetes or any other disease. It definitely has symptoms, like those diseases have symptoms, but they are usually not physical. Like, it's not a wound, but you can still notice it. And those main symptoms are isolation and despair. Then it comes to non-functionality. Your body would not want to function. That person will lose the will to get up, to do a certain work. Your body stops responding completely. There will be no desire to do anything, to want anything. There will be low mood and appetite. There will be a feeling of guilty or feeling that you're worthless. So then there might be suicidal thoughts, which is a result of feeling all the above things that I told you. So now let's just talk about the origin of depression and when it was first found. What was previously known as melancholia is now known as clinical depression. So it says melancholia is a mental condition characterized by extreme depression, bodily complaints, and sometimes hallucination and delusions. Melancholia is a concept from ancient or pre-modern medicine. Melancholy was one of the four temperaments, matching the four humors. In 19th century, melancholia could be physical as well as mental, and melancholic conditions were classified as such by their common cause rather than by their properties. So, what do we get from this? This is not a new disease. I will give you much more proof further in the video that it's not a new disease. It does not, let me just break some myths right now. It's not a new disease. It's not a millennial disease. It's not a disease that happens to rich people. It is a proper sickness and illness. It is very very important that you get it out of your brain that you choose to be depressed. Yes, there is a differentiation between feeling depressed and having depression. You might have a bad day, you might feel low, and you might feel depressed. But that does not mean you have a severe, acute, clinical depression and you need medication and therapy for that. So this disease was first diagnosed by Hippocrates, who is known as the father of Western medicine, who was born in, now let me just say this out loud, this man who first diagnosed this disease that is called depression was born in 460 BC in ancient Greek. That proves the point that this is not a new disease, and still we are in 2020 and people are debating over this topic that it is a disease or not. And if you have everything in your life, why are you depressed? So that doesn't make any sense, and that is what I want you guys to understand from this. To further explain, in our Hindu scriptures, Ramayana and Mahabharata contain fictional descriptions of depression and anxiety. During the era of Lord Rama, that was 5000 to 4000 BC, Lord Rama's father died from despondency, illustrating a major depressive disorder. And if you know anything about Ramayana, you will I think you might connect the dots that why this man was depressed. Now let's come to this part, that why people say that, oh, this person has everything. You are grown up so well, you have everything, money, car, house. Why are you depressed? So let me tell you, depression, there are three main causes of depression. First is biological, second is psychological, and the third is social. Now, in this video, I'm going to explain this to you guys in a very brief manner, and then further when I do next separate episodes for these kind of videos, I'll definitely explain it more. I don't want this video to be super long. So first, let's just read something about how is biology related to depression. Researchers have noted difference in the brains of people who have a clinical depression as compared to those who do not. So that proves that it's all in your brain. And now science will explain you why it is so. For instance, the hippocampus, a small part of the brain that is vital to the storage of memories, appear to be smaller in some people with a history of depression than in those who have never been depressed. So, I don't know how many people can relate to this, but if you have been through severe depression, you tend to lose few parts of your memory or your past, which I know it sounds really scary, but I think unless and until a person is talking about that particular portion of your life, you won't even realize you don't remember it. So yeah, that is the proof now. Science says that depression is true. Please don't fight over it that it's not. So that explains a lot of things. You know, if your brain is not functioning properly, then obviously you are directed from here and then the rest of your body works. If your brain is not sending signals of happy hormones, you can't feel happy. And I hope you guys know this thing, and then you can generate happy hormones also. If you can search these videos on YouTube also, how to generate happy hormones or how to get that fluid in your body. So that was a very brief introduction of biological factors of depression. Now let's just jump into psychological and social, and then we are done with this video and I'll explain a lot more about a lot of different mental illnesses later. So psychological factors can be overthinking. Like many thinking patterns are associated with depression. These thinking patterns include overstressing the negative, taking the responsibility for bad events but not for good, having inflexible rules about how one should behave. Like these are very small things, and it does not mean that if you do any one of this you are clinically depressed. Then there can be loss. That experience of loss can maybe drive you through the path of depression. Sense of failure. There can be a acute sense of failure within you that can keep on developing, which makes no sense. Like you are not a failure, but you keep on feeling this gut-wrenching feeling of being a failure, or like a shame or a guilt So all these factors are psychological factors. Then obviously stress, like, do we need to talk about it? So there also can be child abuse trauma and neglect. So yeah, this video is really special for me. I do not care how many views it gets, even if I can help one human being, one person, I will be glad that I did that. And honestly, this topic is very important to me. Mental illness is treated so bad in our country, and you must have seen in this recent scenario that we saw, people are using this term depression in such a easy way, and they are not really finding out why is this happening so much in our country, what we are doing wrong. And yeah, it's really easy when something happens and then you are out and about saying that yeah, we should talk about depression, this, that, but your facts are wrong. And then the next thing that I think is vital, I was having this chat with a friend and I was saying that, you know, this should be done. And I hope I had this kind of education when I was in school. I hope that the schools organize two sort of education, or like they at least do a seminar or something including every kid, and they talk about 2 points. That is, one is mental illness and the second is sex education. He literally told me, like, do you really think that if a school is organizing this kind of things, like, no, I'm not talking about international schools, but normal schools, like the schools we have studied in, if there is a session that is like about sex educations, do you think the parents will allow their children to go there? And I'm like, that is true. The parents will be like, baap re, chi, what you're talking about, and you're teaching this in your school? Which is so wrong. If you want to be blindsided, nobody can help you. And of course, mental illness, and if you're talking about suicides and anything in your school and you're teaching children, parents will be like, oh, you're putting that thought in my child's mind that if something goes wrong, you should die. That is our fault, isn't it? We are not talking about it. And just go and Google the rate of children who are in school and they're dying, they're committing suicide, and we are literally doing nothing for it. I do not understand that being in 2020, still India cannot get up and talk about these things openly. You know, we will keep on talking about that country is progressive, but we are not going to be there unless we open our own minds. So yeah, that was it. For the next episodes, what we are going to talk about is, we have already spoken about the history or the origin of the disease. We have spoken about the factors. We are going to read more or learn more about the age group which depression hits more. Is this illness curable? Or, you know, what is the causing rise of depression in our country? So we are going to talk about all these things and many more mental illness or social topics. So yeah, I hope you guys like this series, and I hope you find it helpful. And yeah, that's it for today.